out. Notification, 5 business days, you got to notify your resident legal representative that the plan's been submitted for review and approval. Upon that, final implementation of the plan by the ALF, maintain a copy of each notification at the licensee's physical address review, because we're going to ask to see that. If notifications are electronic, facility staff will be able to readily access that information. So what we are seeing here, as I said, is failure to implement the environmental plan, or not having an extension in place, or not having these policies and procedures. And these requirements to have the policies and procedures have been in place for a year now. So we really should see that facilities actually have these policies and procedures in place. And again, as I stressed earlier, your staff need to know. Your staff need to know what your plan is and where is the plan. They need to be able to, when we come in, you know we're going to ask for this. I'm giving you some freebies, some tips here. We're going to ask you for this. I can guarantee you every time we come in to do your biannual licensure survey, we're going to do a generator assessment form. And we're going to ask you for that. We're going to ask you for your plan. If we get complaints about it, we're going to come in and we're going to ask you for that. We're going to ask to see what your policies and procedures are. Do your staff have access? I'm telling you exactly what we're going to be coming in to ask for. So you should be ready when we come in. And keep in mind, I think that this whole rule generated because, we know why, because of what happened during Hurricane Irma, right? Yeah. We all know that's why. And so I think because of that, there seems to be a big focus on hurricanes. But we all know, as I said earlier, you got to think outside the box, right? Things can happen at any point in time. I know in Manatee County last night, there was a lot of lightning strikes. A hospital in Manatee County lost their power, the generator didn't come on. After about an hour, they had partial generator. So that's just from lightning strikes. Now I got to call at 10:30 at night for somebody to tell me that, but that's okay. But that does happen. And again, the thing with a hurricane is we can be prepared for that, right? We can see it out there coming towards us. We know that, and we can get prepared for it. I feel bad for New Orleans, don't y'all? Oh my word! When I saw, first of all, I was holding my breath to make sure that last little storm did not come up on us up there in the Panhandle. But then I thought, oh my gosh, I feel sorry for New Orleans people. First of all, I'm going to New Orleans in 2 weeks for a conference. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my hotel's gonna be flooded. But I did feel bad for them for what they had to deal with. But these storms, hurricanes, we can prepare for. It's the other stuff that you need to make sure that you're prepared for as well. And really, a lot of it does go back to education of your staff. I mean, I know I run into the same situation you do. You have staff that you have to train, and then something happens and you have to retrain them, right? And it's all about that oversight that you do to ensure that your staff are knowledgeable about your plans, just like we have to do our jobs as well. We don't just give somebody a regulation book and say, here you go enforce the requirements. That's not how it works. We have to do training and validation of that training. And my staff actually, I require them to take a little test to make sure, just like all of your core certified, right? If you're an administrator, you have your core certification. I actually have testing requirements that I require my surveyors to go through to test their knowledge of the regulations. So what's fair is fair. So I do the same thing to make sure that they have knowledge. But we all have to do that to make sure that our staff are knowledgeable. So that's our emergency power plan requirements. I do have some other stuff we're going to talk about as far as emergencies in a few minutes. Rounding out some of our topmost cited tags that we've seen for 2019, resident rights as it relates to having a grievance procedure for receiving and responding to resident complaints. Make sure that you do that because a lot of the complaints we receive, where do you think they're coming from? Your family members, your residents. Somebody's not happy. I got a call the other day from a family member. I think somebody's got my phone number posted out somewhere because I get phone calls all the time. Right to my direct line. I mean, I don't mind. I'm a government employee, so it's not like I can say, yeah, I'm not answering that. But I don't know what it is. But people call me all the time to help them with Medicaid. I got nothing to do with Medicaid. But they want me to help them. But yeah, just complaining. You know, the ALF told me I had to do this with my mom. I'm like, oh, well, that don't even sound right. So, you know, it's something we had to go look at. So it really is prudent upon your part to make sure that your residents know and your families know what your grievance procedure is for receiving and responding to resident complaints. Because you know the biggest thing is that people just they'll call and say, well, I didn't know where else to call. You know. So educate your residents out there. Facility must be able to demonstrate that such procedures implemented upon receipt of their complaints. So it's not just about having somebody to call or make a complaint to. It's what are you going to do with that complaint? And a written statement for house rules and procedures. Everybody needs to know what the rules are, right? Just like in any athletic event, you got to know what the rules are to play a game. You got to know what the rules are to be in this business. Your residents need to know what the rules are to live where they're living now with you in your assisted living facility. So it's important that they know this information. Also, resident rights, physical restraints related to including half and quarter rails must be reviewed annually by the physician unless that resident chooses to have that device and can remove it without assistance. And we know we do have some of those folks, right? If we do see half or quarter rails in your facility, when we're doing our survey, we're going to ask the resident, can you remove those yourself? Can you move them up and down yourself? We're going to ask that. Residents have to be treated with consideration and respect. Access to adequate and appropriate health care. And some of the biggest things that we are citing this tag for recently are related to residents experience some verbal abuse from staff. You know, so we're going to watch how we're talking to our residents, not in a demeaning or abusive way. So really show our residents respect when we're talking to them, and a clean living environment are also one of the reasons why we decided this tag. Staffing standards. Most common reason why we cite this tag, freedom from TB, that's updated annually. Now, I do know, and I see Susan's not in here, I did receive some communication from Susan about a shortage with TB testing, and I am aware of that. I've actually reached out to Department of Health to ask them what they're doing or if they need guidance that we can share with you. That really is, you know, we do come in and verify compliance with it, but that does fall under the purview of the Department of Health as far as when there is a shortage like this. So I'm waiting to receive communication back from the Department of Health, and I will share that with Susan so she can get that information out to all of you guys once I do that. You know, if your employee gets a chest x-ray, a healthcare provider must sign off on that annually. Does not mean that a new chest x-ray must be done. Communicating statement is only required once and must be documented by that healthcare provider. Other important information about this regulation, staff must be qualified to perform their assigned duties consistent with their level of training, just like with us. I'm not going to send somebody out to do your facility unless I know that they've required that they've completed this required training, and they have to go through assisted living facility training for us. We want to make sure. So the same with you guys. ALF contracted to provide services to residents must ensure those resident individuals providing those services are qualified. And facilities 17 beds or over. A job description for each staff person must be created and given to each staff member. And as a supervisor, I need job descriptions. I don't know if you guys do, because I fall into that. All my staff, I say you fall into that 5%, other duties as assigned. And I want to say 99.9% other duties as assigned. But because I work for the government, you can't do that. A0025, resident care and supervision. This is one of the things I talked about where we are citing some safe environment and supervision related to elopement. Notification of change of condition made to the physician within 30 days as part of this requirement. Arrangement of appropriate health care necessary to treat newly acquired existing conditions. Provide care and services appropriate to the needs of each resident and, each resident, so it does vary, not one size fits all, and personal supervision to appropriate needs of each resident. And again, one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, that we are citing was this. One of the significant issues that we found in our larger facilities is meeting the needs of a resident that had an unstageable pressure ulcer. And that was a very significant finding that we had in one of our larger facilities. And again, that safe environment, and we've had some situations recently too with resident-to-resident altercation. So that does fall into that supervision that we would look at that. Yes, Doug?
You mentioned pressure sores, so pressure sores typically refer to sort of a bed, something where the skin has broken, etc., as I understand from the home health nurses. But sometimes you see like a wound or something, or open skin or open wound on the leg. It's clearly not a pressure sore, but it's an open wound. So it gets into a different set of questions. How are you guys dealing with that?
We would look at it like a skin lesion or skin infection. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah.
We would see not so much like a pressure ulcer.
Well, if the
we see a lot of skin tears.
Right.
We would investigate that to make sure that the facility knows, if we see it, that the facility knows and what type of care and treatment you're providing.
So, but that type of open skin wound would not be considered a pressure sore, or would you consider it
It would not be considered a pressure sore.
So, pressure sore would be something that would be as a result of being in the bed or.
Typically what we see, and there's some nurses in the room, right? Nurses in here. Typically what you're going to see is residents who are left in the bed on their back, and they end up with like an unstageable or stage 3 or 4 of their coccyx. That's typically what we see. May not see that in ALF, but that's typical pressure ulcer. Or we see residents who are bed bound, and the facility has has a sheet on them that's too tight, so they can't move their heels, and then their heels get a breakdown. So really, as a pressure ulcer is not the same as a skin tear or a skin lesion. So
like in the case of diabetics, who might have, an open wound of some type.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that is different. They're different.
That's what I thought. I was being told that, so I was.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
You can just question and see if I need, since I'm not a nurse. I was raised by a nurse, and my spouse is a nurse, and there's a lot of nurses that need to validate what I just said. So AHCA updates. Let's talk a little bit about some AHCA updates. Again, I have talked about the emergency power rules. This is on our agency's website. If any of you gone to this website, look up yourselves. Well, let me just tell you this. Consumers and the media look at it every day. It's updated every day. I know because I get calls about it. In Broward County, I had to talk to them last week, as I said. They asked me about it, just updated that morning. I hadn't even looked at it. Got to the meeting, they had already looked at it. So be prepared. This is on our agency's website. Once you go to AHCA.myflorida.com, click on the emergency power rule banner on our webpage. You can't miss it. It's big and blue. And under the emergency power plan rules, you can select emergency power plan stats. And I will tell you, like I said, we have a lot of folks interested in this. I just pulled this out, I think July 5th. So you can actually go here and you can break this down by provider type. So naturally, we're interested in ALFs. You break it down by ALFs, I think this was July 5th, and by providers and by beds, and you can see the total licensed beds in each one of the areas, plan approved and implemented, the number. So that's good. Look, we're at over 2,000, that's great. Current variance at 287 and no variances at 439. So you know what? Our data looks a heck of a lot better now than it did 6 months ago. So we have to give ourselves credit for what we have done. We've done a lot of work out there. You guys and us too, and us working together. We've done a lot of good work out there. You can actually, if you go to map, as you see, you can see the map of Florida. If you go to this, you can actually hover over, your county. You can see specific details about the county. And then you can select report, and this is just an individual report that actually has the specific assisted living facility, where they are, what city, their plan approval date, plan implementation date, and current various requests that are approved, yes or no. And if it says not needed, they're in compliance. If it says no, then no. And those are the ones we're following up on. So just to let you know that. I do encourage you to go there. I checked it myself this morning just to make sure it works, you know. But it is out there, and I can tell you we are asked probably, you know, at least once a week we're getting media requests. So it is important that you know where this is and that we are being asked. So again, when you look at this and you see where we are, out of the number of assisted living facilities that we've got, the ones that we can say are plan approved and implemented, a current variance, and those with no current variance, I mean, that's pretty good, considering we have over 3,000 assisted living facilities. And it's not like you could just, I mean, a lot of you are in your, you have larger facilities. You can't go to like a Home Depot and buy a portable generator and just stick it up like some of our 6-bed can, right? It's not gonna work, you know? I had one of them portable generators, and we tried to use it, but I thought it was too much of a hassle. So we sold it to somebody else. So we just go to their house. So you look at my power line in Tallahassee. Any of you from Tallahassee? Where we got all those trees, and listen, the wind blows hard and your power's gone. But you know, unfortunately that happens, but you know, again, this data is out there. What we really want to do, again, is to not you know, out people that are not in compliance. I think it's important to show the work that we have done and you've done, the really hard work to be in compliance with these requirements. So we're all about transparency, from the federal government to the states. We're all about transparency. We really want to, you know, push this out, and then we can just kind of, you know, tell people here it is, here it is. So we encourage you to do the same thing. So again, you can separate these by per field. So if you're in one county, like if you're in Lee County, and you only want to know what's going on in your county, you can sort it by the county. So I did tell Keisha Woods, who was our licensure unit manager, you know, I don't process your applications. Me and my staff don't do that part. But I told her, I said, hey, I'm coming to talk with these folks. What you want me to remind them about? And she said, please tell y'all, get your applications in time. It's very important. This is the statutory requirement. Application for renewal must be submitted, an application received by the agency at least 60 days, but no more than 120 days before the expiration of the current license. If it's received more than 120 days before your expiration, it's going to be returned to you. But we want you to submit it timely. And you do know, we tell you, right? We send you a courtesy notice. Courtesy notice is sent to the providers at least 90 days before your expiration date. And you would not be surprised on a monthly basis the alerts I get about providers that have not renewed their license. So even large companies do not renew their license timely. And do you know what happens if the license expires? You don't have a license to do business, right? You've got a lot of people in there you're accountable for. What's going to happen if you don't have a license? We going to come on site and cite you for being unlicensed. Here's what's going to happen. And then you're going to relocate your residence. You have to deal with all that. Nobody wants to deal with all that, right? And we really at the agency, that's a lot of extra work for everybody, so we do try to push very hard to get in touch with providers, make sure that they are reapplying in a timely manner. I've had to actually send my staff on site. And you know what? Some people just try to tell you all kinds of stuff like, oh, that checks in the mail thing, you know? Check in the mail. It's online. What are they talking about? But it is important. I mean, you have a business. Those individuals in the room who are licensed, you know, if you don't renew your license, it's a mess to get it back, right? So you need to make sure your facility that you respond in timely to those alerts. As soon as you get that alert that says your courtesy notice from our agency, well, get your stuff in and go ahead and get that done. You're over with it. You know, get it on in. Just like when you get your credit card bill. I'm sure you go ahead and pay those, right? So don't come after you. We want you to do the same thing for us. Make sure you pay that on your fee and you know, get that in to us. So let's talk a little bit about ESS, our emergency status system. So those of you that are in kind of the impacted area with Broward County today, you should have gotten an alert from our emergency status system. You are your staff. Whoever is signed up in emergency status system. One thing I want to tell you is that it's important that you make sure that you update your information. So say like you have an administrator that you have signed up for ESS and they leave. You want to make sure that you provide your new administrator information and get them registered so that they can have access to the emergency status system. It's important that your email addresses are correct, your contact information is correct, because that's how we are reaching out to you. And again, if you were in Broward County, you should have gotten alerts. We sent an alert out to hospitals, nursing homes, and assisted living facilities in Broward County. I saw that alert myself, so that actually did go out. One of the things that the makers of ESS wanted me to tell you is bookmarking ESS. Save it on your computers, your laptop, wherever you access emergency status. As we see, Doug has his computer here. I'm quite sure he has he's got his bookmark for ESS. This is the correct web page to bookmark. This is the correct web page to bookmark. Do not bookmark the logon script. I think that there have been some system problems when you do that. So do not do that. And do not log on do not try to save it once you get in here, into the dashboard, your facility dashboard. Do not do that. So when you bookmark it, and we want you to make sure that you go ahead now and bookmark your ESS on your computer, so you have this right there. You can look your favorites, however you want to save that, but save it here. This is where you get to that welcome to the ESS system. That's where we want you to bookmark it. Not here at the logon, not here. So make sure you get that done. So, in closing, I just want to kind of talk a little bit about some things. A couple of things too. Again, just to reiterate, we are at a time where there's a lot of eyes on us because it's hurricane season. We know it's hot right now, right? I'm hot standing over here. Y'all hot? I'm hot. Yeah. We know that we have storms. You know, and it's like all of a sudden I see all these things on the news, and I'm like, it's summer. It's hot, right? It's going to be hot. We know it's hot in Florida. It's got a lot of humidity here. You know, you need to be prepared. Somebody in this room's power is going to go out. I guarantee you're going to lose your power. You know, it's what you do after that that's most important. Take care of your residents. That's what we want. If something happens in your facility, we want you to let us know. We want you to be in compliance. I don't know if you realize this. I was a surveyor for 8.5 years, so I know. It's an extreme amount of work for our surveyors to come on site, to do a survey and write deficiencies. Do you know that?
Yes.
It's a lot of work. And especially if we have some egregious findings, it's a lot of work. Not only do we have to write our stuff, and we encourage our staff to write it so it's legally defensible, we might go to court. We want to be prepared. It's a lot of work. We don't just come on site and write stuff just because. It's a lot to do when we do that. But we need your help too. So, you know, you have a license to operate an assisted living facility. You know what the rules and regulations are, right? You know what the rules and regulations are. They're free, by the way. It's not a surprise. They're free. Get them and read them and make sure you're in compliance with them. Now, I myself know sometimes I read them and I'm like, what was somebody thinking when they wrote that, right? We all do that. If you have a question about that, shoot me an email. Say, hey, Kim, I'm reading this. How are you interpreting this? I'll be more than happy to not answer it myself, but ask our attorneys. But that's what we have attorneys for, right? But it is important that you understand what the rules and regulations are. It's important that you know what they are so that you can take care of the residents. When you have something, as I said, that happens in your facility, you know, if you call us and report it, that doesn't necessarily mean we're coming on site. What it means is that we have a great working relationship with you, and we encourage you to let us know. I really had a media situation in June in a facility. We were in this facility every single day. It was a very large facility. We were in there every single day. We surveyed them back into compliance, by the way, because we were moving to do an emergency suspension order or a moratorium, because they had a lot of folks in their facility that lost their power, the cooling system was down, they did get their power back, the cooling system still wasn't working. We had a lot of concerns about those residents. We had so much concern. My staff was in that facility early in the mornings, in the afternoon when it's the peak heat, and in the evenings. We were there so much, we really did, as we say, surveyed them back into compliance because we were just concerned. We don't want to have to do that. You don't like to see us show up, do you? No, nobody does. It's a bad day for everybody, and we don't want to have to do that, but we encourage you to be in compliance. It was all about that this facility really, they had a plan. Nobody could seem to find what their plan was. We were like, well then, you know, at least maybe for a portion of your facility, maybe you need to enact your plan. We were kind of telling them what they needed to do, and that's fine. That's what we're going to do, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure those residents are protected, but that should be your job too. And that's what we want to do. So I encourage you, if anything, when you leave here today, one thing I want you to make sure that you hear from me and take is that we really want to work together. And really, we want the state of Florida to be #1 because of the care and services that we provide in our assisted living facilities. Not because there's something in the media that we have to answer to, or, you know, we're in hurricane season, everybody wants to know what's going on in Florida. But you really do a great job. So give yourselves credit for the great job that you do, especially with the generator requirements. Look how far we've come. We've got a lot more work to do. We will continue to do that work, but we really have done a great job. So thank you for what you do every day. Again, ongoing communication is the key. And I hope you have a great rest of your conference and enjoy our secretary tomorrow night.